So hi, thank you for coming in today. My name is Danielle. I'm going to be the worker here at the clinic today, and I just wanted to start off by saying we do have a confidentiality policy, so anything that we say in this room does not leave this room unless I feel like you're going to harm someone or yourself. So what brought you here to Planned Parenthood in Albany today?
Well, I found out recently that I'm 7 weeks pregnant,
Okay.
and I'm not sure where I want to go from here on out.
Okay. So you, how you said did you find out 7 weeks ago, or have you found out recently?
Just recently, a couple of days ago, I took 3 tests and they all came out positive. And then I went to my regular gynecologist, and they said that I was 7 weeks along.
Right. Okay. Do you know if it's a boy or a girl yet?
No.
Okay. Do you live in the area?
No, I live in Plattsburgh, New York, which is pretty far upstate. So I don't really have my parents here to help me along with the process. So
Mm-hmm. And how old are you, if I may ask?
19.
Okay. So, can you tell me a little bit about how you felt when you found out that you were pregnant? Was it a surprise? Were you expecting it?
It was a surprise. There's a lot of kind of fear because 19 and going to college, so I don't really have time to be a mom right now.
Mm-hmm. So you are in college?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you told your parents?
Yeah, I told my mom and my dad. They were not happy, but they said that they'd help me in any way I needed help.
Well, that's good that they're still willing to support you. You know, a lot of people don't get to have that, don't get the support of their parents. If you don't mind me asking, do you know who the father is?
Yeah, he's my boyfriend. We've been together for like 6 years now, so I mean, we weren't safe one time, and turned out the one time I ended up getting pregnant.
Okay. So it sounds to me that you're telling me that you're in college, you're 19 years old, you and your boyfriend are sexually active, and the one time that you decide not to use some form of protection that you get pregnant. Now, how does he feel about this?
I haven't told him yet.
Okay. Is that why you came in today, or did you come in to look at other options? You know, I'm just trying to gauge like where we could.
Well, I know for me
help.
personally, I don't want to tell him because I don't want to give him the wrong idea. Like, I know I'm not ready to be a mom, so I don't know if I want to look into like giving it up for adoption or other ways to end the pregnancy.
Right. And what do you think? What do you anticipate that his reaction is going to be once you tell him? Is he in college as well?
He is, but
Okay.
I know if I told him, he'd drop everything to help, and I don't want to be. I don't want to ruin either of our lives or
Right.
set it back any.
Right. So it sounds like you're having a lot of conflicting feelings about the pregnancy itself and what your boyfriend may or may not say. So in terms of, you mentioned that your family wasn't happy when you told them that they were pregnant, but they are willing to support you. Have you been able to gauge with them what level of support they're willing to offer?
I know they help me pay it for like anything financially, and like if I had any procedures or if I decided to go through with adoption, that they'd be there and helping me through it. But it's a little difficult seeing as they're so far away.
Right. So where is your family right now?
They're in Plattsburgh.
Okay, I gotcha. So do you go to school or MTR, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I go to Siena College.
Okay. So would you say that you have a good relationship with your family?
Yeah, we're all pretty close.
Is there any member of your family you feel particularly close to?
My mom.
Okay. Was she the first person that you told?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any siblings?
I have an older brother. He laughed at me when I told him.
Oh, that must not have been fun.
Nah.
So in terms of this pregnancy that you are currently experiencing, you mentioned your family, but do you have any other sort of support systems that you feel like you can reach out to concerning this issue?
I have good friends, and like my grandparents are pretty supportive.
What have your friends said?
They said that they'd hate to be in my position and that they don't obviously know what I'm going through, but that they'd also help me and go to any appointments with me to help me through it.
Yeah, it sounds like you do have a really great support system. Have any of your teachers at school said anything to you, or have you told anyone at school?
They don't know yet.
Okay, I see. Have you, you mentioned that one of the things you might consider correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of this pregnancy is either adoption or, did you mention getting an abortion?
Yeah.
Is that something that is conflicting for you or anyone else in your family religiously or spiritually? Do you consider yourself like a religious person?
I'm Catholic and I go to church every Sunday,
Right.
so to me, I don't really support abortion, but also I know that there are a lot of children in adoption agencies right now anyway, and like there's a lot of kids in foster homes, and like I don't want to bring someone into the world if they can't be cared for.
Right, so you want to do what's best for your child, even if it sounds like that abortion is the first option, but you acknowledge that it's an option that could be something that might work for you.
Yeah.
Have you gone to any other agencies? Have you gone to any other? This is your first one. What doctor do you go to see?
I go to Linda Johnston in Plattsburgh.
Okay, and did the OBGYN, is that someone you saw around here?
No, that's in Plattsburgh.
Okay, so you had traveled home to go see another doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me see. So right now, do you live on campus?
Yes.
Okay, and then the dorm room?
Yeah.
Do you have roommates?
I have 2 roommates.
Okay, and then you said your parents live in Plattsburgh. Do you typically go home during break?
Yeah, I go home often.
Okay, so you still have a room there and things like that? Yeah. Okay. So you said that you were in a relationship with your boyfriend, and you've been in that relationship for 6 years?
Yes.
You said, right? Okay. How would you describe, if you don't mind me asking, how would you describe the nature of your relationship with your boyfriend?
I mean, we've been together for 6 years, and like we plan on like staying together. We have talked about like living together and stuff like that, but anything that we do would be like after graduation.
Okay.
Not now.
Okay. So, oh my gosh, I don't know how to make this 30 minutes. So, have you had, before this boyfriend that you were with for 6 years, did you have any other relationships?
Yeah, I've had a few prior, but none of this extent.
Mm-hmm. And is he someone that you said you could see marrying down the line?
Yeah.
Okay. And he was your first serious relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how does your family feel about him?
My parents like him. He's very kind. Like, he'll go see my parents even when I'm not home.
Mm-hmm.
We're all pretty close. Like, our families like each other. So, my main concern is his parents. Because, like, my parents, we go to church, but his are, like, very strict. Like, they would not even consider any of the options. Like, they'd make him keep it. Even though I know he would want to, but, like, they'd make him.
So, do you see that as being a source of conflict for you with him?
Yeah, which is why I haven't really told him, because I'm just afraid that we'll be bullied into making a decision that we don't want to make.
Right, and when it does come down to making the decision, whenever you decide that time will be, do you foresee yourself taking all opinions into account, or do you foresee it just being a decision that's made just between you and your boyfriend?
I'll take all opinions into account, but like when it comes down to it, like the main deciding factors will be between us.
Okay. And you mentioned that you haven't told your boyfriend this yet, which is your own decision. Are there any other? Do you normally tell him pretty much everything that goes on in your life?
Yeah, we usually talk about everything. I just wanted to make sure I had like all the facts before I went to him to give him every like option.
Okay. I just wanted to backtrack a little bit and go to, so if I may, it sounds to me like the presenting problem is that you just found out you're 7 weeks pregnant and you are unsure if you are both going to keep the baby and you also haven't told your boyfriend yet, so that sounds like it's the current problem. I just wanted to backtrack a little bit and talk about any other problems you've experienced in your life, any like traumatic history that you feel like you need to disclose, just so I can have all of it down for my supervisor.
I haven't had really any traumatic events, although I was sexually assaulted by one of my previous relationships, which is why it ended. So, like, that's one of my fears, which is why I also don't really want to discuss with my boyfriend about the pregnancy, because, like, that just frightens me.
What frightens you, if you don't mind me asking?
Like, disappointing someone and letting them down.
So, you have that fear of letting someone down because of the sexual assault you described in your previous relationship. And does your boyfriend know about that relationship? Does he know that that took place?
Yes.
And how does he kind of navigate that? Like, how do you guys navigate that as a couple?
Well, he's very supporting, and like he helped me kind of move past it, but he still knows that like I have some like things that I find uncomfortable, and like he won't push me past like what I find comfortable. But like at that point, I used to feel like it was my fault, which is why even now I'm still afraid to like disappoint anyone because I don't want it to be my fault.
Right. So when it sounds to me that when you were sexually assaulted in this previous relationship, the feeling that you were feeling the most was disappointment. Was it disappointment that you didn't notice the signs earlier? Was it disappointment that you couldn't have done anything? You know, like I just want to explore that feeling a little bit more.
Yeah, it was that I didn't really notice that he was very forceful a lot of the time, and I never really picked up on that until it was too late. And at that point, I was like, well, why couldn't I why couldn't I help myself?
Right. And did you, after that happened and you got out of that relationship, was there anyone you talked to? Did you see a counselor?
Not really. I didn't really talk about it much. I tried to keep it to myself and tried to move past it on my own, which didn't really work. But
do you still find yourself struggling with it even today?
Sometimes, yeah.
How do you usually cope with that?
I usually just talk to like my friends who know about it. Like I've told a few people, like my boyfriend and one of my very close friends, like they know about it. And like if I'm ever having an off day, I'll just talk to them. And they usually help. But like the overall feeling towards it's still there in the back of my head.
Okay. And is it ever something that you told your parents about?
No.
Did you just not feel comfortable rephrase that. Was it something you just didn't feel like you wanted to share with them?
Yeah, I didn't want, because I know that they try and press charges, and I didn't want to ruin someone's life, even though they kind of ruined mine.
That's a common feeling with a lot of survivors of sexual assault, is that guilt and that disappointment that they didn't notice something earlier. But it sounds like it is something that even though you've struggled with it, you've kind of made peace with it. You mentioned that you are Catholic?
Yes.
That you go to church every Sunday. Has your faith played any part into that trauma and going through it?
Well, a lot of the time I think about like God wouldn't do anything that I couldn't handle. Like He gives us what we can take, and it makes you stronger in the end. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Like it was meant to happen. It was my fate. It's God's plan. So.
Okay. And does the rest of your family identify as Catholic as well?
Yeah. Oh, everyone but my brother.
Do you mind me asking why that is?
I'm not, like, me and my family, we just started going to church, recently. So, like, my brother never went as a child.
Okay.
So, like, when me and my family started going together, he was like, nah, I don't want to go. Like.
Okay. And that was something that your parents were okay with, or was it any time a source of tension in your family?
No, my parents, they never wanted to force anything on me and my brother. They want us to make our own decisions, so they were pretty cool with it.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a really supportive family. Okay, so I'm just going to transition a little bit into talking about your health status, both mental and physical. So you mentioned that you went to the OBGYN and that you go to the doctor regularly. What did the OBGYN say about your current state of your pregnancy?
She said basically that I was 7 weeks along and that everything was looking fine. But she also mentioned how my mom, when me and my brother were born, she has this thing where like our blood types are different. So she almost died giving birth, and that I could potentially have the same issue, which could be a complication when I gave birth, which could either kill me or the baby, which is also why I'm considering not having the baby in the first place, because I don't want to go through the 9 months and then risk myself dying or the baby dying. Right,
that sounds like it's a really hard issue for you to grapple with. Have you brought it up with your mom at all since she went through that herself?
I did, and she said that it was scary, the thought of me and my brother both dying, but like she wanted to risk it because she wanted the children.
Right.
But because I'm in a different place where like I'm not ready, I don't want the child at this moment, that it might be best just to save myself and the child potentially.
Right. And so you said your brother's older, so this issue with the blood that your mother had, was that was a concern for both the times that she was pregnant? Okay. And do you know how, I mean, you kind of just touched upon it, but do you know how she mentioned it? Was it just something that she said, like you said, she just wanted the baby, but it wasn't enough a risk for her to not want to not get pregnant? Does that make sense?
Well, the first time she didn't know about it, and then she almost bled out on the table. And then the second time, the doctors were more aware, so, like, when I was born, it wasn't as severe because they were prepared to give her a blood transfusion. But, so, like, I was worth the risk is basically what she thought. And it was kind of lesser because they were aware. So, like, knowing that they're aware with me, it would be okay for the most part, but I'm too afraid to risk it.
Right, it's still a hard decision, especially because you are so young, and then after that, your mom didn't have any more children?
Right.
Okay. Do you consider yourself to have any sort of disabilities?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you take any medications?
Just for my asthma.
Okay. And have you had any surgeries? Have you ever had to undergo any special sort of treatments in your life?
No, I mean, other than my wisdom teeth.
Right, but you've been, like, generally healthy. Okay.
Yeah.
Now moving on, we talked about physical health, to talk about your mental health. Would you, I don't want to say consider yourself mentally healthy, but how would you describe your day-to-day mental state?
I think I'm, like, average. I mean, there are days where I just hate everything, but, like, it's not, like, bad. And, like, when I found out about the pregnancy, that was probably a day where I was pretty upset. I'd consider myself, like, pretty depressed that day. But, like, moving past it, I think I'm pretty much mentally healthy.
Okay. So I know you're in college, and I know for almost everyone that can be a very stressful time, so how are some of the ways that you deal with stress?
I go on runs a lot. Around campus, there's also a bike path in like, Niskayuna where I like to go and run. I'll listen to music, or I'll go and talk with my friends. A lot of the times I'll go to the grotto, though.
Right.
And I'll just sit there for hours.
Right. And do you usually pray there, or you just like to sit there?
Sometimes I'll say prayers, but a lot of the times I'll just sit there and do homework.
Wow, that sounds like a really powerful thing. I wanted to bring up the sexual assault that you mentioned before, just in relation to your mental health. Did you experience any mental health issues after that happened, or are there any that you're still experiencing from it?
A lot of anxiety. A lot of the times, like, if someone approaches me in, like, not an aggressive manner, but, like, in a manner that I find uncomfortable, like, I'll start to, like, have issues with my asthma and, like, I can't really breathe.
Right.
But usually I'll just take a couple of breaths, or I'll use my inhaler, and it'll help me move past it.
Right. And is anxiety around that something that you still experience?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned that you have asthma. How long have you been living with that?
Since I was, like, 10.
And you said you have an inhaler.
Yeah.
So that's something that you generally have under control.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on, I was just going to ask you about substance abuse. I know that you are in college, and I don't want to assume that you do or do not do anything, but if you're comfortable disclosing any patterns of alcohol use or substance, that would be helpful.
I don't use, like, substances at all. Sometimes I will have alcohol, which is also another concern, because I know if you drink when you're pregnant, it can cause issues, especially the earlier on in pregnancy. And because I didn't know until, like, 7 weeks in, I'm concerned that could have issues.
Right. So how would you describe your attitude toward substance use? Like, how would you describe your attitude towards alcohol?
Alcohol, I don't use it a lot. Like, I don't drink a lot, but, like, sometimes with my friends I'll go out and, like, I'll drink a little, but never anything, like, too excessive.
Okay. What about other substances, whether they be, legal or illegal, if we're talking about marijuana or other kinds of drugs?
I don't smoke or do marijuana or anything like that. Honestly, I think it's kind of gross. And I like to be more in control of my body, and drugs scare me because my older brother, he used to be really into drugs.
Right.
And he's gone to rehab multiple times, and, like, it just scares me because of that.
So it sounds like you have witnessed firsthand the effect that drugs can have on people, so because of that, you don't feel the need to engage in them yourself, whether it be recreationally or any other reason, and that's very significant. I think that's a good attitude to have. So then, let me just think for a second. Okay. So then you mentioned that you are in college. What year are you in college?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay. And what are you studying?
Psychology with a certificate in pre-law.
That's awesome. And I'm assuming you went to high school, you graduated?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you go to high school where you used to live, where you live?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you employed?
Yeah, I work at Target part-time.
Okay. And how many hours a week do you usually work?
Around 20, which
Okay.
it's not a lot, but sometimes it gets hard at school.
Mm-hmm. And do you foresee, with this pregnancy, how do you foresee yourself handling school and or your job?
Well, with the pregnancy, I feel like there's going to be a lot of doctor's appointments, and I'll need to go home a lot, which is going to interfere with the job. Plus, it'll cost money, which, since I won't be able to go to my job, I won't have financial ability to pay for anything. Even though my parents will help out, I feel like a burden, asking for help because of my own issues. So, I'd want to pay for it myself, but it would just cause a lot of issues with schoolwork and actual work.
Okay, so it sounds like this pregnancy would affect your financial circumstances quite a bit. If you don't mind me asking, are you paying for college? Are your parents paying for college? How is that working for you?
My parents are paying,
Okay.
but I'm kind of paying them back, so they've paid for it, but I'll pay them back because I don't want to. I feel guilty taking their money.
Right. And you said you have a job, so you make money through there. Is that money usually for spending? Is it for saving? How do you feel like you manage it?
It's usually just for paying for groceries while I'm at school.
Right.
Or for emergencies, if I need to drive home for gas. Not really a lot for spending.
Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was your identity, and I wanted to talk about your ethnic identity. So I don't know, I'm trying to think of how to word this. How would you describe, if you were to describe yourself to someone, how would you describe yourself? It doesn't have to be just about your race, it could just be about just in general. How would you say, my name is Lauren and I'm, you know what I mean?
Well, my dad's side of the family is from Mexico, so
Okay.
I'd say Hispanic, because we celebrate a lot of the holidays for that, and instead of a sweet 16, I had a quinceañera.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say Hispanic, because
Okay.
his side of the family is predominantly, my grandmother married my grandfather to get into America.
Wow. Okay. So is that something that you find yourself, you are comfortable with that identity? Is that an identity that you find yourself struggling with?
For the most part, I'm okay with it, except for there was this one instant when I was back at home, and I walked out the exit at a Walmart, and this guy followed me out to my car yelling, "No habla inglés, no habla inglés," because apparently I couldn't read English to read that the sign said enter rather than exit, which that was the one time I was really uncomfortable with it.
Right. And do you find that you said your father he's Mexican, correct? So do you find that you identify as Mexican, or are there other terms that you also feel comfortable identifying as?
Well, I mean, my mom, she's white. She's from Plattsburgh. She's lived there. Her whole family's lived there for generations.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times people look at me and they're like, "You're Mexican?
Right.
You're very white." I'm
Right.
like, well, yeah. So sometimes I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm just white," because I'm afraid to admit to people, because they take the Mexican term and they're like, "Oh, you're a drug dealer," or "Oh, you're a smuggler," or something like that.
So it sounds like that you do, depending on your social environment, that you do find yourself struggling with a lot of those issues surrounding diversity, and that's not uncommon. There are a lot of people who identify as maybe Latina but don't identify as Hispanic. It's very different depending on each person. So how, in terms of your age, how comfortable do you feel telling people that you're a college student? What do you feel like the response to that typically is?
For being a college student, usually people expect you to be in college. So usually if I meet someone and I tell them my age, they're like, "Oh, so where are you going to school?" They don't accept the fact that I could not be in college.
It's just like an automatic assumption, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And is it something that's comfortable for you, or is it something that... Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about in terms of your socioeconomic status? How comfortable are you with not talking about it, but with knowing like where you are at and maybe that it's different from some other people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty comfortable. Like, I know where my parents stand and like where I stand, and we don't have much, but we've got what we need.
Right. How about in terms of your gender identity? Has it ever been something you struggled with, or you've known your whole life?
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of the same thing with sexual identity. You mentioned you have a boyfriend, so I don't want to make any assumptions,
Right.
but
Yeah.
How would you identify that way?
Straight. Like, I'm a female who's straight.
Right. Just questions that I have to ask. And you mentioned for your ability, you said you have no physical disabilities. What about cognitively? Have you ever struggled with anything with like that, like learning or reading or writing?
I don't think so. No, I've been usually in like the higher percentiles in my schoolwork. So.
Okay. And we talked about your health, your mental and physical health. It sounds to me like you are in both good shape, both physically and mentally. Okay, so now we're going to kind of summarize everything that we just talked about, and I'm going to say some things to you, and you can tell me if that sounds right, if that sounds wrong, if we need to adjust it. I'm more than willing to work on it with you. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about a brief summary of the needs or problems that could work for you. So to me, it sounds like that you found out you're 7 weeks pregnant and that you are unsure of what to do about your pregnancy. So what I would suggest is maybe not only having these weekly meetings with me, but continuing to come to Planned Parenthood. And we have many experts here who can show you a variety of options for what you're comfortable with. And it sounds to me like you're more than willing to look at other options and that you know where you're at. So does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Evaluate the goodness of fit and appropriateness of your agency. So I personally do not think that there will be any other agencies that you really need to utilize. I think for what you're looking for, Planned Parenthood really has all the resources that we need. If you do ever feel like we don't have what you need, don't hesitate to tell me, because I have a wide knowledge of any other different, not only family planning clinics, but just things related to pregnancy in general in the Albany area, if you ever feel like what we're doing isn't enough for you and no one's going to take it personally. So it sounds like that you are very aware of your own needs and that you're very motivated to get help with this issue, which is great, and you have a willingness to seek help. So it sounds like that your current strengths are that you're very secure in yourself, and that while this pregnancy may have come as a shock to you, that it's not something that's going to completely, I don't want to say ruin your life, but it's going to completely throw your life off track. And you have like a good education, you have a good family support system. It sounds like you're resilient from the trauma that you experienced that you told me about. It sounds like you and your boyfriend have been together for a long time. So when you do decide to have that conversation, it's not going to be, it's not going to be a huge, it's not going to be a deal breaker. It sounds like resources and supports. You have us as a resource. It sounds like your family is a great resource. Support from your mom, who's been through this before, other family members. It sounds to me like your internal and external boundaries are very open. Like you're willing to talk about this, you're willing to seek help. You told your family, they were like surprised, but they're still willing to help you, so that's really great. It sounds to me that your current barriers to this pregnancy are, you mentioned the medical history with your mom, you mentioned the financial need, you mentioned the fact that you haven't told your boyfriend, that you have that conflicting feeling with your religion and your spirituality, and some other things. So those to me sound like some potential barriers or obstacles that could prevent you from making a decision, right away. It sounds like it's going to take some time for you to think about these things. Okay, so, for our next meeting, I think that we should develop 2 goals that would address the problems that we described during this meeting. So, I think the first goal, if you're comfortable with it, would be to tell your boyfriend about the pregnancy and kind of gauge his reaction, like see where he wants to go with it, and have an open discussion about where you two want to go with it. And I would say the second goal would be to like really look deeper into the options we discussed, or maybe even there are other options that you haven't heard of that we have. You mentioned abortion, you mentioned adoption. You could even look into options for the medical condition that your mom had that you mentioned. Do those sound okay to you?
Yeah.
Does everything I talked about, was there anything I missed? Was there anything you wanted to add to?
No, that sounds good.
Okay. So, do you think about 2 weeks would be a good time for our next meeting?
Yeah.
Does this time and day work for you? You know, what time is it? Tuesday we start at what, like 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
Does that work for you?
That works.
Okay, perfect. So I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call me. You know, I'm here at Planned Parenthood in Albany. So thank you for coming in.
All right, thank you.